okay, Nigel, I like the idea that everyone has a superpower, but so far I've been stood outside for half an hour trying to jump in the air, and I can't fly yet. And as far as I'm concerned, flying is the only superpower there is. Hey everyone, welcome. So glad to have you here on the What's My Superpower podcast. So great to have you here. Thank you very much. Now, today's episode is we're going to try and work on the question, what is a superpower? Because for some people, they might be thinking, okay, Nigel, I like the idea that everyone has a superpower, but so far I've been stood outside for half an hour trying to jump in the air, and I can't fly yet. And as far as I'm concerned, flying is the only superpower there is. Well, yeah, okay. We'd all love to fly. We'd all love that particular thing. But sometimes superpowers are not what you would see on the movies, okay? But that doesn't mean just because you haven't got laser eyes, or that you can go into space without breathing, or you can hold your breath underwater for 2 days, or whatever it is, stretch, or lift heavy weights, all those sort of things, all the things that we already we associate with the comics and everything that we see, on TV, on movies and things like that. Just because you don't think you've got one of those doesn't mean that you don't have a superpower. And for some people, you sort of go, oh, well, if it's not the ability to fly, or not the ability to, make world peace, or not the ability to cure cancer at, just by waving your arm, then it's not a superpower. So what the hell's this podcast all about? Well, what I want to do is just kind of reel in that Hollywood image of a superpower and make you think about superpower on a slightly different level. Okay. I don't know if anyone has heard, it's quite an old song, but I dug out the lyrics because I think they might have a bit of resonance for people who are thinking, that my superpower is not super enough, it's not powerful enough. And I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people never reveal their superpower, because they feel embarrassed that it's too small, it's too insignificant. It's not big enough, it's not bold enough, it's not brash enough, it's not bright enough, it's not amazing enough, it's not, is it a bird, is it a plane? No, it's Superman type thing. And what I want to do is wipe that sort of bit away and wind it back in and say, look, okay, we need to realize that a superpower could be something that many people might think is trivial, irrelevant, pointless. Not a superpower at all, not even a power. It's not super, it's not powerful, it's neither. But that doesn't matter, because the superpower is a superpower to the person who possesses it. And if the possession of that superpower gives them the feelings of helping people, the feelings of happiness, of joy, of wanting to jump out of bed in the morning, to do more of what it is that they're doing, then that, my friends, is a superpower. Because how many people want to jump out of bed in the morning? How many people want to get up and do that again and again and again? How many people want to just focus on that tiny little thing? Often, not many of us. And maybe the person's superpower is to repeat the same thing time and time again without ever losing enthusiasm for it, without ever losing that love of it. And it could be when you see sometimes, someone who's making something and it takes them 12,000 hours or something ridiculous to make just one thing. And you see, so I've seen, the Japanese samurai sword makers, these swordsmiths, these master swordsmiths, and you look at the hours they spend. They heat it up, they fold the metal, they hit it with a hammer, they heat it up, they fold the metal, they hit it with a hammer. And they do it time and time again. And then once you think, hey, that's a pretty good sword, someone sits down and polishes it for thousands of hours, in tiny little movements. And you think to yourself, well, that's ridiculous, but what they create, what they craft could be something so amazing that their superpower is the ability to focus for a long period of time on the same repetitive action without ever losing enthusiasm for it. That could be a superpower. If you've got that superpower, oh my goodness, everyone else who can't focus for more than, I got distracted, for more than 2 seconds looks at you and thinks, that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. How do you manage to sit there and do that? And most people with a superpower, when you question them about their superpower, you'll get this reaction. You'll get this acknowledgement of their superpower. They'll go, just do. And this is one of the things that you've got to realize is that often people with a superpower, most people in the world may not regard it as a superpower. And that makes the person themselves not realize they've got a superpower. And then when somebody does realize they've got one and they ask them about it, they just shrug their shoulders and go, oh, it's nothing. No, my friends, it is something. It is your superpower. And just because the world's reaction is not what it should be, because we are so badly educated at spotting and valuing other people's superpowers, does not mean that you should not be immensely satisfied, grateful, and all the rest of it for your superpower, because it is incredible, the fact that you have it. And that's why I just wanted to come back to these lyrics from this old song. And the reason it came to mind was because it was on an advert, I think, and it was just a great little phrase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and just go through the lyrics. Okay, I'm just going to read them out. I'm not going to sing because that is definitely not my superpower. We're going to go through the lyrics and I'm going to explain how somebody's superpower could be something super small. Okay, so here are the words. I can't remember the title of the song, but I've got some of the words. So, you've heard of Florence Nightingale, Grace Darling and the rest. You've all seen Greta Garbo and her bosom friend Mae West. But there's a little lady I want you all to meet. She's working on munitions and she lives just down the street. She can't pretend to be a celebrity, but still she's most important in her way. The job she has to do may not seem like much to you, but all the same I'm very proud to say she's the girl that makes the thing that drills the hole, that holds the spring, that drives the rod, that turns the knob, that works the thingamabob. She's the girl that makes the thing, that holds the oil, that oils the ring, that takes the shank, that moves the crank, that works the thingamabob. It's a ticklish sort of job, making a thing for a thingamabob, especially when you don't know what it's for. But it's the girl that makes the thing, that drills the hole, that holds the spring, that works the thingamabob, that makes the engines roar. And it's the girl that makes the thing, that holds the oil, that oils the ring, that works the thingamabob, that's going to win the war. Now, I didn't really probably do that justice, and I'd urge you to go have a listen to it, because it's a great little ditty. But what is it? It's saying right at the beginning, okay, this person isn't famous. This person hasn't done anything amazing. This person, you could argue, is a very tiny cog in a very big wheel. But this person's superpower at this point in time is the one that does all the little bits that have the knock-on effect that when it comes down to the last bit, because this was a wartime song, she was going to be the difference in helping them win the war. So her superpower was being able to do that. Now, did she leap out of bed and do it? Well, during wartime, what you find is there's an awful lot of people who did very tiny jobs, who felt very compelled that what they were doing made a big difference and would contribute in a big way. Think of it, the old story. Here's another one. What's your superpower? Now, would you say being a cleaner or a janitor is, a superpower. Well, you may not. But the story of it was, when the space race started in America, and whether this story is true or not, it's a great metaphor, a great description for how someone, it's all about perception as to whether they believe they've got a superpower or not, whether they believe they're contributing to make a difference in the world. And this is what we've got to try and understand, is what is a superpower? So would you say a cleaner is a superhero? The answer is probably not at first glance. But when JF Kennedy said at the beginning of the 60s, by the end of the decade, we're going to safely put a man on the moon and bring him back again, there was an overriding mission that needed an awful lot of people to contribute. And the story goes, as I say, whether it's real or not, I love the idea of it. He's walking down the corridor. He's going to visit the Space Center. He's walking down the corridor and he happens to come across somebody who's cleaning. And he just asks the question, "What are you doing?" Now, what would most people answer? They'd probably say something these days facetious like, "Is that a trick question? I'm cleaning up, you idiot." But he didn't. So the story goes, he turned around and he said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely." Wow. That superpower there for that person was understanding that his role, his superpower there was knowing that him doing that cleaning was contributing to that mission of getting a man on the moon. That, I think, is a superpower. And what I want to do is just relate that the superpower should give you a feeling. And when you think to yourself, have I got a superpower? If you don't particularly enjoy it, I would say, okay, you might have a skill, a talent, but I wouldn't call that a superpower. I think your superpower ultimately makes you feel really, really good. Okay, and you could probably ask the lady in the munitions factory that drilled the bit that had the oil that did the thingamabob. She maybe felt at the end of her day, I've helped, I've contributed, and I feel good about that contribution. The guy who was cleaning the corridor, when asked by the president, "What are you doing?" he felt so good about what he was doing that he said it was part of putting a man on the moon. Ultimately, your superpower should make you feel really, really good. And if you define that by jumping out of bed in the morning so you can go do more of it, then perfect. But having a superpower doesn't mean you are looking for the ability to fly, the ability to, lift a train, the ability to swim faster than motorboats or anything like that. Having a superpower is all about your ability to contribute in a way that makes the world a better place and you feel really, really good. As I say, in the podcast here, What's My Superpower? What we're trying to do is just give you some simple tips, strategies, ways of thinking, ways of approaching things, perspectives that help you chip away, just chip away at revealing what your superpower is. And what I want you to understand from today's episode is that your superpower may not come under the classical Hollywood Marvel comic definition of a superhero, but that doesn't mean it's not a superpower. And if that gives you the absolute wonderful feeling, whatever it is that you do, then that, my friends, means you have a superpower. And I can't wait for you to share it with the rest of the world and tell us about it. So, if you're ready to tune in again next week, I'd love to have you back. But in the meantime, if you want to go to Apple Podcasts and have a look there, review the show, the What's My Superpower show, hopefully it'll be there. I'd love you to give a review. And also, I'd love you to get in touch with me and tell me. You can tell me on the there on the review site what you think your superpower is. But get in touch. I'd love to know. And if you're struggling with something, or if you're thinking, I'm not too sure about this, could you help? Let me know. And have a look in the show notes. There's loads of ways to get hold of me. And I will see you on the next episode. But until then, be super.